Our sequel opens with our hero, Yun, bound and staring down the barrel of a Japanese soldier's pistol. Unfortunately, in all his centuries roaming the earth, Yun never bothered to learn Japanese, so he bumbles through trying to use an app on his totally out-of-time-and-place cell phone to translate the soldier's questions. When that doesn't work, he breaks free of the ropes and easily fights off his human opponents. That man is Hwang. And Yun is none too pleased with his younger brother's smoking habit. He shoots the cigarette right out of Hwang's mouth, and Hwang, annoyed by Yun's brotherly shout to quit smoking, retaliates by blasting Yun with a rocket launcher. Looks like Yun is going to have a long way to go to repair his relationship with his brother all over again. You might be wondering, how exactly did Yun wind up in 1938, at the height of Japan's occupation of the Korean Empire? Well, thankfully, our story rewinds to approximately 4 months after the events of Season 1. We see Yun make a deal with Talipa and resume his previous work of protecting the living. But only under the condition that Hwang would one day be reincarnated, and that Yun would be allowed to die when his wife, Jia, dies. So, of course, when a man wearing a red and white mask steals the crystal that maintains the boundary between the living and the dead, it's Yun's job to retrieve it. There's just one little problem: the masked man escaped through a door that transported him to 1938, and after following the man to the past, Yun has a mere 16 hours to locate the crystal and return to the present time. Should be a piece of cake for a 9-tailed fox, right? Except in chasing after the masked man, Yun is distracted by a familiar face, a woman who bears a striking resemblance to Yuri. Then he gets caught in the middle of a bombing and Korean independence protest outside the station. In the chaos, the crystal is picked up by a thief. After an epic chase on horseback, accompanied by a catchy OST and a lot of impractical rifle spinning, Yun follows the thief to his hideout. There, Yun is reunited with his brother because, as it turns out, the thief is a member of Hwang's gang of bandits. Although Yun is overjoyed to see his brother, Hwang isn't exactly overflowing with brotherly love. This is why, when the opportunity presents itself, Hwang drugs Yun's drink, frames him for the bombing, and turns him over to the Japanese soldiers. And, here's the bromance we all adored in the first season. Now that our story has caught up with itself, the masked man abruptly returns and stabs Hwang in the back, literally. Just when it seemed like Yun was getting through to his brother. Although Yun doesn't have much time before the door to the present closes, he can't leave Hwang to die, so he scoops up his brother and follows Hwang's instructions. At the Ki-seng house, Yun meets Bong-sok, an eternal being who promises to heal Hwang. But he will only do this if Yun brings him Yuturi's sword, the only weapon capable of killing Bong-sok. Luckily, Yun knows exactly where the sword is located because, in 1938, Yun himself was in possession of it. The Yun of 1938 was also heavily medicating his broken heart, so Yun easily steals the sword from his former self. Well, until 1938 Shinju sounds the alarm and forces Yun to go head-to-head with a younger version of himself. Meanwhile, the comatose Hwang has an out-of-body experience and wanders around as an unseen spirit. He witnesses Bong-sok drain the youthfulness from a young girl, turning her into a child-sized old lady. When Yun finally returns with the sword, Hwang possesses the child-sized old lady and warns Yun that Bong-sok is a leatherback turtle, one of the 10 longevity symbols. Together, Yun and Hwang chant a rhyme that reveals Bong-sok's true form, and Yun uses Yuturi's sword to cut the weak point in Bong-sok's neck. When Bong-sok disintegrates into hundreds of glowing orbs, one enters Hwang's body and heals his injury. I don't quite follow the logic here, but I'll accept it because, well, magic. Although Yun saved Hwang, he missed his deadline to return to the future. But, the 1938 Talipa reveals that there's a way for him to reopen the door. The information comes at a price, though. She will only tell him the secret if he retrieves the stolen legendary pipe, which is powerful enough to blow up an entire mountain. And so, Yun and Hwang begin their next adventure on a train, where a Japanese passenger is rumored to have the pipe. Although Hwang and his bandits have a well-timed plan to steal the pipe, neither Hwang nor Yun account for the presence of Hongju, a mountain god with a massive crush on Yun that's borderline delusional. She takes the pipe from Hwang's bandits and offers to give it to Yun, but only if he marries her. When Yun rejects Hongju's marriage proposal, a battle royal breaks out on the train as Yun, Hwang, Hongju, and the Japanese agent they stole the pipe from all try to retain possession of the powerful artifact. The rooftop train battle ends with Yun in possession of the pipe, and when he returns it to Talipa, she tells him that the door to the future will reopen in 29 days, during the next lunar eclipse. She also sadly explains that Yun's actions in the past will have no impact on his future, meaning Yun can't save Hwang from the tragic fate that absolutely wrecked all of us during Season 1. So-yeon decides to make the best of his remaining time in 1938 and be the big brother he never got to be. And first up on Yun's big brother bucket list is a clothing shopping spree. While Hwang's glow-up added nothing to the overall plot, watching him go from scruffy cowboy to a dapper bad boy with a sexy undercut was totally worth the detour from our regularly scheduled programming. After spending some wholesome time with his Hwang, who is still totally suspicious of the cell phone carrying Yun from the future, Yun tries to track down the masked man. For some reason he asks Hongju to put her ear to the ground and tell him if she hears anything about a man running around in a mask. In exchange for whatever information she digs up, Yun has to judge a beauty pageant in her stead. Because that's not random at all. A completely disinterested Yun attends the beauty pageant, where he's reunited with Eun-ho, the Yuri lookalike. Eun-ho is a reporter and the daughter of a wealthy and influential family with close ties to the Japanese. But considering Eun-ho was the one who threw the bomb outside the station, it appears she's secretly in support of Korean independence. She's also recently made friends with Mu-young, the man behind the mask. While his motives still remain ambiguous, his cryptic words, accompanied by equally disjointed flashbacks, suggest he has a personal vendetta against Yun. The beauty pageant, which nearly bores Yun to tears, turns into a horror flick when the winner transforms into a zombie that goes on a killing spree. Yun figures out that the pageant winner was infected with a parasite while getting primped at the beauty salon, so he and Hwang go get jobs at the salon to suss out the source of the parasite. The brothers do a little sleuthing, and eventually the indigenous god who put the parasites in the salon's shampoo reveals herself. As a god of wood stoves, she couldn't get with the changing times. But the mastermind, and the supplier of the parasites, was none other than Mu-young, who, for some to-be-determined reason, captured the zombie beauty pageant winner and boxed her up for a rainy day. With another case closed, Yun and Hwang take a leisurely night stroll around town. Finally, Yun is reunited with present-day Shinju, who followed Yun through the portal to 1938. Poor Shinju has had a rough time since arriving in the past, what with him first becoming a prisoner and then narrowly avoiding being a guinea pig for biological weapons. His little side adventures were quite humorous, but I'm glad all three of our boys have reunited, especially since there's no telling what our villains have in store for them. And that covers episode 1 and 2 of Tale of the Nine-Tailed 1938. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And, of course, come back next week for the new episodes.